You're basically a professional guru exposer, right? Do you ever just feel bad making the videos you do?
That's something I've had to battle against.
You mentioned Coffeezilla. Are you guys boys, or do you ever have people reach out and pay you money not to release them?
I kind of wish I got offered money more.
How much would it cost?
Have you been wrong about anyone?
Yes.
Spencer Cornelia, it is a pleasure to have you on. I'm actually, honestly, a huge fan of your videos. Like, I watch a lot of them.
I was included in one of them. You remember that one?
We
back
did,
in the day?
yeah. I texted you about that. Was there some bad blood there?
No, not at all. Remember I made the video and then you sat down with the kid.
Oh yeah, you exposed somebody,
Yeah.
and then I ended up sitting down with him, and he
He
kind
did
of
a good job with it.
He clapped back at you though, right?
That's fine.
What was the whole
that's
situation?
expected.
What was the whole situation
It
there?
had to do with giveaways. You remember
Okay,
those? The
yeah,
giveaway
yeah.
games?
That was Skylar.
Yeah.
You don't want to
Yes.
drop the name?
He did celebrity Instagram giveaways, and then basically you.
It's
exposed-
alleged. Some people allege that some of these giveaways, the kids wouldn't give away the actual prize, which would make it illegal.
Wow.
Which is right up my alley. I love that. Whenever I hear that, I'm like, ding, 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 video topic.
Yeah, for those watching who don't know what you do, you're basically a professional guru exposer, right? How
In a
would
way,
you
yeah.
describe it?
Well, I enjoy talking about topics where there's fraud or a lawsuit involved. Certainly with influencers, that makes it more interesting, although I'm not limited to just influencers. But of course, on YouTube, people enjoy influencer scandals. And so definitely videos that involve lawsuits are my favorite. But anything that involves what someone would refer to as a scam or fraud, I'm right
How
up
do
my
you get
alley.
into something like this?
Oh man, this was a couple years ago now. I felt like there was a lot of marketing going on that was just inaccurate and unethical, specifically in real estate. If you go back to 2019, there are a lot of TV shows talking about how you can flip houses, and I would see some of these ads and be like, "This isn't real." So my mentality at the time was, let me talk about some of the unethical things being done in the real estate space. And then I find this guy Coffeezilla. He starts doing Fake Guru Fridays, and I'm like, "Oh, Fake Guru, that's an interesting term," because I kind of feel I've sensed it in real estate space. So that's where my kind of the pathway started, and then it's evolved, of course, over the years. As any YouTuber, you evolve.
Yeah, you have to.
There's just bigger stories that I've been able to cover.
Did you make any videos before that?
Yeah, certainly. I started January 2015.
Okay.
This was
wow.
back. Were you born by then?
2015.
yeah, 2015.
Yeah, I think that was my.
When did you guys start watching YouTube? Like actually start watching?
2013.
I was a kid.
Yeah,
I was a kid.
2010.
Okay, so
10,
you were
11,
young.
12,
Yeah, not
yeah.
many people started.
I
that
grew up
early.
on YouTube.
Like Smosh and stuff, like
Yeah,
way
same.
back in the day.
Yeah, so 2015, it was not as cool. You just did it to do it. The idea of monetization, what does that word even mean?
Yeah.
So I was just making videos because I enjoyed it in the fitness space. They were terrible. I would watch fitness space videos on YouTube and go, wow, why can't I make that? My stuff sucks.
What were you doing before YouTube?
Before YouTube, I was in the sports world. So I graduated with a degree in sport management. So I
Okay.
was working in sports. I was actually working up in Oakland, California.
Okay.
Working with the A's, and then I got a job out here in Las Vegas in software development for a tech company. And then I lost my job during COVID, April 17th, 2020. Asked me if I remember the day. And then that day I was like, all right, I'm going to be a full-time YouTuber
You
now.
just doubled down and went crazy.
You said software development?
Mhm.
Was that like coding?
Yeah.
Did you have a degree?
Not in that specifically, no.
So how'd you get a job with that?
I did coding boot camps at the time. This was all the
Okay.
craze. And when I was in Oakland, coding boot camps started becoming a thing because the coding world was very needed, right? All these tech companies were growing and they needed people to code. And so I did a 12-week program and was able to land a job. I wasn't specifically coding. I was testing, running QA. But I had a career path to become software engineer, but I decided to go YouTube and real estate.
That's actually really interesting because you basically benefited from online education.
Very much so.
So you believe in online education.
I always have.
Really?
I love good education and good gurus, and I wanted to expose the bad. And my intentions from the beginning were to expose the bad, highlight the good. Even if you go back to 2020, I made videos. I tried to alternate a good video. These guys are awful. These guys are good. Or here's how you learn real estate. And then, of course, as you know, you start going, okay, there's one type of video that does a little more than the others. No one cares about the positive videos.
Yeah.
So then you go down that pathway. And now I kind of become only known as that. And unfortunately, the positive videos bomb on my channel. And so you kind of, through process of elimination, you become, one type of creator.
But where do you draw the line? Like as far as a good guru and a bad guru?
I think the start is in the marketing.
Okay.
So I have nothing. I see nothing wrong with someone who isn't the most experienced, or you're in e-commerce. If they only make $250 a month selling some little products on Amazon, if you want to teach someone, here's how to make $250 a month, you certainly can, because you do it. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as the expectations are clear and as long as the education matches the expectations. So I think that's where it's very important to analyze the marketing, because the guru itself isn't that important. It becomes more fun to, poke at the guru and like,
Yeah.
this guy drives the Ferrari and he lies about everything. Like that's kind of the clickbaity nature of YouTube. However, I think the marketing is the most important. To really answer your question though, they need to deliver on the course as well for sticking specifically to courses, or in some cases, people offering services. I'm going to teach you, I'm going to take your money, start an e-commerce store for you. Very, very clear expectations. And as long as you deliver on that, nothing wrong. The problem is with a lot of this guru world, they aren't delivering on expectations. They're setting huge expectations up front and not even coming close to delivering. And that gap is where I come in and make videos.
Okay, so would you say a rented Lambo, fake guru?
I see nothing wrong with that. That is just marketing. Everyone does it. But again, if you use the claim, I'm going to teach you how to get this Lambo, and you've never done it yourself, I think there's a problem there. But if you're using it for marketing, it works. So I can't hate on that. Same thing with trying to rent a model for the day, get some hot chicks in your videos. We get it. It works.
Yeah. So it's just about setting the right expectations and delivering on what you're claiming you're going to deliver.
Absolutely. I see nothing wrong with that. For instance, if we did a YouTube course, you could sell a course on how to get 1 million subscribers because you've done it. I haven't. So that would be unethical if I claimed I could show you how.
You're on your way though.
I'm on my way, but I haven't done it myself.
Yeah. How's that doing?
Channel is really healthy right now.
Yeah.
So I'm at 517,000 subs. I'm a mature channel and the niche isn't as hot as it used to be. There's a lot more competition. When Coffeezilla and I first started 2020, it was clear as day. It's like, oh, we struck gold. Any video about fake gurus got hundreds of thousands of views. And I certainly was carried by the market. For you youngins who may not understand, it's like in cycles, sometimes the market carries you with real estate specifically. YouTube, definitely the market carried me. My talent was not, it did not match my kind of quote unquote success on the platform. But now I feel like I've gotten a lot better as a creator. And average view count, probably 150,000 views. Doing pretty well.
Yeah, that's solid.
You mentioned Coffeezilla. Are you guys boys or?
Yeah, we're real cool.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. I actually really appreciate him. He's called me a few times out of the blue and asked about, I had ongoing legal battle. And he was the first one to find out because I called him and asked for advice. And he certainly has reached out numerous times, as busy as he is. I always appreciate it. I always felt like he called me at like literally the perfect time and just, he always asked me how I was doing. And then at the end, I was like, oh, by the way, how you're doing? Hey, he's like, fine. I could tell it was one of those calls where he was only asking about me. It wasn't about him talking at all. So I always appreciated that.
Do you wish you uncovered the Logan Paul CryptoZoo scam before he did?
Man, those view counts, boys. Those view counts. That AdSense.
Give me some of that.
Yeah, give me some of that. No,
that was a big one.
No, he did a great job with that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd been uncovering that for a while, so I'll give that credit.
But I really like Coffeezilla as well. I really like you, but I do see like these guru exposers popping up right now where it's like, I don't know if I agree with them. Like some of them, it just seems like they're putting names in the titles just to get a click, and like they don't have real concerns. They don't have real like points. Do you see that?
Oh, you struck a fun topic with me. Yeah, I think there is a very, very, very important ethical line here, which is whenever you're a critical commentator, I think there is a code of ethics you should abide by, one in which I feel like I feel like Coffeezilla has, and I feel like others haven't. And it is very important when you use someone else's name in the title, in the point of the video is about someone else, that you are doing so in such a way that you're not trying to defame them. You're not trying to just criticize just because their name is big, but you're doing so for a purpose. Meaning if I was sued because I screwed someone over and you made a video using my name in the title, fair game. I screwed someone over. However, if you're just using Logan Paul in the title or some big creator and it's just like, this guy scamming and all this, Logan Paul's not the best example, but handful of other people just like they're scammers, but you're not really providing anything substantial. You get all I call them the internet points. You get the likes and the views and the subscribers, and you attract all those people who may not like those creators or don't really know who they are, but like, oh wow, that big YouTuber screwing someone over. Oh my God, I don't like them, and I very much stand against that.
Yeah, I feel like you guys created this niche, or like you guys are making money off this, and people saw it, and now they're just diving in just strictly for that AdSense revenue. And
it certainly helped whenever I made videos about how much money I was making. I know Graham Stephan and a handful of others have made videos on that. And so people see, wow, you can get this many YouTube views and I'm going to make this much money. It's life-changing money. Let's be real. However, if you're only doing it for clicks, I don't think I think you're being just as unethical in some cases as the subject.
Yeah, that's fair. But how do you feel on like a personal level? Because with what you do, I mean, it's going to be, the type of content is inherently a little bit negative, right? It's for good cause. It's for good reason that it's negative, right? You're fighting a noble battle. Like on a personal level, do you ever just feel bad making the videos you do?
Of course, I'm absolutely comfortable sharing this. I think it over time will erode your optimism in life and erode kind of who you are. And that's something I've had to battle against. I think what makes Coffeezilla really special, and the reason why I believe in him long term, is because I think he loves being the investigative journalist. This is who he is at his core. And I don't really think he's as negative because he's a journalist. But I feel like if you're in the critical commentary space, which I think I fall more in line with that than what Coffeezilla does, I think it naturally will kind of lead to a pessimistic view. Something I've certainly tried to fight against. Full disclosure, had I not had my lawsuit, I would have been not making this content years ago. I've kind of had to go down this path because of legal battle. But yeah, over time, I think it does kind of wear at you because as an optimistic person and someone who aspires to be like others, certainly some of the people that these videos are made after, I aspire to be them. And so when I see others, like your whole life is about finding flaws and finding the fraud story, like, oh yeah, maybe that guy did commit fraud. Let me look into it. Like you're always looking for people's negative instead of looking for their positive, or maybe something you can learn from someone else. Oh, did Tony Robbins scam? Let me look at him like a scammer instead of maybe listen to his messages from the positive perspective.
You said Coffeezilla has a long-term plan. So is this not your long-term plan?
Not for me personally.
Really?
No. I enjoy what I do. I think there's a purpose to it. I'd love to drop down. It'd be great if I could make a lot more money and do like one video a month. Coffeezilla's reached that pathway. You know, you guys have been on YouTube. I'm sure you've seen how it's great when you can become a bigger creator and then you can drop back to like one video a month so you can focus on less topics. Ideally, I get to that level where I can focus on like the stories where someone was really screwed. And I feel like I'm actually doing a good service instead of, you know, just making a video because there might be a scam or some little NFT scandal or something. But no, this is not long-term. It's not in my personality. That's why I don't think I quite have the same creator to audience connection like a Coffeezilla does. Because it's not even me. Like I don't look at the world through scams. I don't consume any of this content. I don't consume any content that's like exposed or critical. Not me.
Yeah, I feel like that would be the dilemma that I would have, because I've kind of dipped my toes into that. Where like, you know, even with the Instagram guy, where it's like, and with other videos as well, where I kind of try to take on this exposing type of character, but I just feel so bad. Like I know what they're doing is wrong, but at the end of the day, like I feel bad exposing them.
And here's what makes it even worse. So you make the video and they reach out and they say, you're wrong. You go, okay, but show me proof. Then they show you a little proof. Then you go, now I don't know what to believe. So now you're stuck with a moral dilemma because you have this video getting views. We're fortunate enough to get a lot of views on our videos where, you know, there's a real impact. And if you make a video about someone, their family might see it or their friends might see it. And so then you face the moral dilemma of, were you wrong? Are they still trying to manipulate you into thinking you're right? Some instances are very gray area. I mean, what does it mean to screw someone over?
Yeah.
In all stories, in almost all stories, there's two sides where one person feels wronged. The other person feels like, hey, we followed the contract or we followed something. So then you have a back and forth that it's not so clear.
You reach out for comment before you
I do my best to.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a video on Nelk recently.
Okay.
I didn't reach out to Kyle, for instance. I reached out to John Shahidi.
Okay.
So I didn't get his perspective despite talking about him. Some of the bigger creators I don't. If a video is pretty clear cut, like there's a lawsuit and I'm just covering the lawsuit, keep in mind that I do my best, absolute best to not make it personal. I don't make personal attacks. I don't speak in a way that is outside the scope of the video. And so in some cases, I don't feel like it's necessary. I also have found that whenever you're making a video on someone, they're going to do a very good job at telling their side. And a lot of times that is influential, but also not necessarily correct. And so that's a great question because it's an ethical dilemma. Like, are you supposed to? You probably should. But at the same time, like if you got a bunch of victims saying they've been scammed and then the other guy saying, oh, I'm going to sue if you make a video or something. What do you do?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's just by a landslide, it's a net positive, right?
I'd like to think so. I hope so. Yeah,
it's
certainly
a very
when
noble.
I think when you cover certain stories, stick to certain stories, and you don't branch into like the personal attacks and like this guy's cringe kind of content.
Yeah.
Do you ever have people reach out and ask you to take down videos or not release them or pay you money not to release them?
Not typically. I've certainly had people reach out after the video. If it's a video about someone who's not a big name, they're gonna see it, and it's happened a few times. I kind of wish I got offered money more.
How much would it cost?
Oh man, that's a great question. Yeah. What's your on the spot? I mean, 50K or 100K, I'd take it. But then this would indicate I'm kind of an extortion business. Your Honor, I have no comment.
Okay,
but
gotcha.
I've been paid to take a video down before. But part of it was because there was litigation around surrounding the video, and it just made sense to take the video down once the litigation was finalized. And I got paid $10,000.
Is that legal?
Yeah.
I'm sure.
It's just a personal agreement between two people. It's just a contract. Wow. Here's the difference. It's like if you were to make a video and then send it to someone and say, "Give me money or I will release this," that is a very clear.
That sounds like a business model, right there.
That is a very lucrative business model if you're just as dirty as the people you're covering. So that's a pathway I would never go down, because that could open up to serious liability. However, there's a big difference between, if you cover a video about a lawsuit and the lawsuit's no longer active and they settled their dispute, there's no real reason for it to still be up.
You mentioned people reaching out to you after the videos go live. Do you ever like get threats? Is your life ever in danger?
Never. Only one time have I reached out and I felt uncomfortable. There was a guy, Mozzie VS. He's a big sports bettor.
Okay.
Is that name ring a bell? It's like 100 grand
I feel like you've done
a
ton of.
He looks like a rapper.
You've done a ton of sports bettors.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So he. This would have been back in 2020 or 2000. I think it was 2020. I made a video on him. It's done really well, maybe over 1 million views. And I got a call from an unknown number. Maybe, I don't remember the timeline, maybe a couple days after the video. And it was him like aggressively yelling at me, "Why'd you make the video?
Whoa.
Take the video down. Why'd you make the video?" And he lives in Las Vegas. And that I felt not really threatened, but he then said, "I know where you live." I was like,
I mean, how
do I take that?
How'd he get your number?
I don't know.
That's already kind of scary.
And he said like, "I got ways," kind of this like code language where you're just kind of like, we don't need to speak like this. And then sure enough, after, I don't know, right at the end of the call, he's like, "I gotta go to dinner. Bye." Hangs up the phone, and 30 minutes later, he texts me my address. And I was like, "Is this a threat?"
Oh, okay.
Question mark. He goes, "No." I said, "All right, whatever." I didn't feel threatened. A little bit, but not really, because he had a lot more to lose than I did. Fast forward maybe a couple days, maybe a week, and I'm at the gym and I get another call from an unknown number. I answer it, and it's a guy just saying, "Hey, what's it going to take to take the Mozzie video down?" It's like, what do you mean? What's it going to take? I want the video down. Well, who are you? I do things for Mozzie. Like, well, what does that mean? Do I need to get my lawyer on the phone kind of thing? He's like, no. I just want to make sure it's down. So this goes on for 10 minutes of me and him wasting time. And then I say, "Look, I'm at the gym. I got to go." Hands over the phone, and then Mozzie gets on. He starts yelling, "What are you doing?" Starts yelling at me again, maybe a minute straight, and I'm just sitting at the gym almost laughing at this point. He's yelling at me, yelling at me, and then he just ends the call. He's just like, "All right, I gotta go, bye."
Yeah, to go to dinner again.
Okay, yeah.
He's a hungry boy.
Yeah, he's a hungry boy. Yeah, so that was that. Thankfully, he never showed up to my door or anything. I don't feel threatened by him, but that's the only time where I felt slightly uncomfortable, but no other.
That's scary. That would get to me, like genuinely.
It doesn't bother me,
really?
Surprisingly, no.
You're strapped?
I'm not strapped at all. I just don't feel like he'd actually show up.
Bro, now you're almost enticing. I don't know.
I would have the police on speed dial.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Do you talk to lawyers before you release any videos?
Never.
To like look over?
No, thankfully through my litigation, I am pretty well versed in defamation law. I'm very well versed in what I can and can't say. Excuse me. You can say whatever you want, what I should or shouldn't say. Okay. And so I have no concern about ever being.
Can we talk about that lawsuit?
Yeah, absolutely. Ask me any question.
If I don't know anything about it, what's going on?
Essentially, I made a video in December 2020. I interviewed someone named John Mulvihill. He's a YouTuber, John Anthony Lifestyle, and it's about a creator named Derek Moneyberg. He was formerly of RSD, Real Social Dynamics. You may have heard that dating company. He's one of the coaches, and a lot of people were commenting, "Hey, make a video on him." This was back when I was doing videos called Authentic or Charlatan. It was a series I was making, and I simply interviewed John. I didn't make any statements at all. I just asked him because I knew they had worked together before, and I knew John was familiar with this subject, and so I interviewed him. And then fast forward to June of 2021, I was served with the lawsuit alleging defamation and among other claims. And so,
how serious was it? Like, are they actually?
All lawsuits are serious. I mean, in the sense that you're going to have to pay to play. It is very frivolous. I'm not liable for anything, as the judge determined.
You beat the case?
Yeah,
hey,
on all claims.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Walking on all charges.
Yeah.
Free my boy Spencer.
Yeah, it's not criminal. Like, civil law is all a scam. Like, it's basically, dude, I spent. To date, I've spent $335,000.
Yo.
And all you get at the end is just a piece of paper with motion for summary judgment. You granted your motion for summary judgment on all claims. It's like, congrats. You were found not liable for defamation. Congrats. You knew it all along.
Wow.
Man, that's
Complete
a lot
waste
of money.
$335,000.
How much time did that take?
We're now at 2.5 years and we're still going. We're still ongoing.
So what's still ongoing?
I won the case. So I won the motion for summary judgment. This ends the case. However, the plaintiff is allowed to appeal. So he has appealed the process. We were not granted the anti-slap, which was, I think, one of the worst rulings in the history of law. And that's just my opinion, of course.
What's anti-slap?
Anti-slap is a special motion to dismiss that the courts allow in Nevada. Only 19 states allow it. What it entails is if you are served a defamation lawsuit and you feel that it is anti-slap, SLAPP, strategic litigation against public participation. So essentially just think of big bully tries to sue journalist for exposing bad business practices, which is exactly what this case is. You're allowed to file an anti-slap motion. If you win the anti-slap, you win a judgment for all attorney fees. Just because you win a lawsuit does not mean you're granted attorney's fees.
Okay.
So right now, we did not win attorney's fees. We did not win the anti-slap case. However, we were allowed to appeal it as well. And so in appeals court, he's appealing the motion for summary judgment. We're appealing the anti-slap. We feel very strongly that he will not win the appeal for the motion for summary judgment. We feel very strongly that we will win the anti-slap, and I will receive a judgment of, we believe, somewhere in the $380,000 range.
You're just trying to get your money back.
Yeah.
Exactly. Best case scenario, I just recoup.
Wow.
Dude, how do you stay motivated making content while that's going on?
Surviving, baby.
Really?
Surviving. That's it. Yeah, I was fine up until like April 2022. Then I just hit a wall. I was depressed. I was like super distraught. My legal fees were jumping to like $15,000 a month, and at the time I wasn't doing sponsors. So man, you know the game, dude. $15,000 a month from AdSense puts you at the top tier of creators.
Yeah,
and that's where I was at just to break even. And so I was exhausted and burnt out. I needed a break, but once my legal fees kicked in, then it was like go mode. There's no time off. So I've been like no time off. I don't even know what a break is for probably multiple years now.
And that sucks, and you're not really benefiting from it. It's just to stay. Man, that's
just
horrible.
Surviving. Yeah. So I made. To give you an example, I probably made like $0 last year, dude. Because I made a few bucks. I made maybe 50,000, but I grossed like 230. But because of legal fees, it wiped out almost all my income.
Wow.
So I was working for pretty low. And I include the GoFundMe, which is I brought in 40,000 from that, which obviously I'm incredibly thankful for. So that was, if you remove that, like, dude, I was working for free essentially.
Wow.
And you were working.
Yeah, dude, like pumping out videos, and I'm still performing pretty well on the platform, and all to break even. Which is pretty tough.
That's
so imagine being burnt out and making $0 on
that's
top.
Horrible.
It's like I wasn't benefiting. I go buy property. I go invest in whatever to set up my future. It was, oh no, you are making content to then send all the money to your lawyer. So now that all the fees are done, I've paid off my lawyer for the remainder of this case. So I'm finally at a point where my money comes to me and no longer goes to my lawyer.
So that was all from one YouTube video?
Technically two.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 videos were involved in the lawsuit. We had one, and then we had a source reach out to John, the gentleman I interviewed. We released the first video, and then he had a source reach out with some very important information. So we immediately made a second video. So technically 2.
Are you afraid that you might get into another lawsuit?
Not at all. No. So thankfully, this idea of lawsuits, you kind of need a claim. And this was a frivolous case against us, but it wasn't so frivolous like, oh, I slipped and fell and sued my neighbor. Like that's a true frivolous case. You need lawyers to be able to actually file a lawsuit. And thankfully, there are some safeguards in place where if you file a really frivolous case, you can file sanctions against the attorneys. Whereas this is so ludicrous, you're wasting the court's time. So yes, theoretically, someone could always file a lawsuit, but there needs to be an actual case, or you can get sanctioned. So the attorneys sometimes will have like, hey, I need to see some proof, or this needs to be legitimate.
Do you have to have some sort of special insurance, or can you have some?
I don't.
No,
but
can you?
Thankfully. Yeah, you probably should have general liability insurance, I imagine.
Is there like a special journalistic insurance or anything?
Probably
like that?
General liability insurance is my guess. Now, I got quoted for like $50,000 a year. Because I'm in current litigation, so of course it's like
that makes sense.
right in the middle of an accident. Hey, let me get an insurance policy on this car.
Damn, that's so rough.
Yeah, so I've been kind of vulnerable.
Yeah.
Now I got to give myself props. Like the fact that I was still making videos, and if someone filed a lawsuit at any point in the last 2.5 years, I would have been wiped out. I would have lost everything.
Wow.
I would have been in serious trouble. I would have had to put my lawyer hat on and go lawyer mode and been my own lawyer probably.
Man, but you made it through.
I made it through. I'm incredibly lucky.
Yeah.
I'm very appreciative. I'm most appreciative of the fact that my audience stuck with me. They kept watching my videos enough to allow me to do sponsors and make enough just to get through. It's like one of those situations where like, yeah, I can play the victim and look at all the, oh man, that life sucked. But I also look at it on the positive, which is I did make it through. It easily could have gone really, really, really bad. Audience left, videos sucked, no one watches, and I would have been stuck. So here I am. I feel like my channel's kind of on the upswing again, and I feel incredibly fortunate.
So what's next on YouTube? What are you planning?
Next is building out a team for my main channel. I want to start systematizing the channel in such a way where I can offload editing and script writing and research.
And this whole time, it was just you doing everything?
Everything myself. Yeah.
Okay.
With what you alluded to earlier with the negativity, it's certainly eaten at my soul.
Mhm.
You have to constantly look at Baller Buster's page and these other pages and look for negative stories. And I just don't want to live a life. That's not an ideal life for me, of constantly consuming negative videos and people reaching out about, look into this scam, look into that scam. And so if I can offload that, I think it'll be better for my mental health.
Okay.
That'll certainly be the goal for the main channel this year.
Okay.
That's a lot of mental strain. Like making that kind of content, making it through that period.
Well, the toughest part is the fact that I knew I had to make like 15, 20K a month just to break even. And so it wasn't like the added pressure of making content, which is in itself stressful. It's
even when you're making
succeed.
all this money.
You have to not just succeed, but you have to be a top tier creator in terms of income just to break even. But I made it, baby.
You made it. I bet it feels good right now when you're actually
I'm good,
keeping
man.
the checks.
I've taken worse stomach punches. Like I was down bad before this.
Really?
I had I mean the last 4 years have been a grind. I've been kind of stomach punched a few times. Bad news comes in threes, and I dealt with three. Yeah, I had flips gone wrong in Ohio. I was a real estate investor. I still am, but more real estate investor before YouTuber. Started flipping in Ohio. I had 2 flips that I was doing at one time. Contractor did really bad work, screwed me over. Had to sell my car. Was riding the bus 4 hours to and from work every day. That was 2019, 2020. So I get out of the flips. I was making $45,000 a year at the time at my job. Lose 90 grand on the flips. So I'm like in crazy credit card debt. Sell my car. End up finally selling the second house, and I was able to get out of debt. So I got back to zero. No cash, but no credit card debt. This would have been 2020, and I just lost my job too. So like major stress. And then I was at the 7-bed property I own here in Las Vegas. There was a plumbing issue underneath the house. And so one day I had a plumber come and check it out. We had an issue with the sink. And he goes, he does a snake underneath the ground and look through the plumbing. And he found that the plumbing had an extreme issue. Without going into details, he looks at the invoice. He goes, hey, by the way, this will be $33,000.
Yikes.
I was like, I don't have any money. So I got hit with that. So then I went in crazy debt. But what happens with plumbing issues is you have to rip up the flooring. I had a jackhammer in my kitchen while I was making some of my most popular YouTube videos. Had a house full of, it's a 7-bed house. So I had 6 other tenants in there with me. I have a jackhammer in the kitchen. Managing that and making sure everyone stayed and was happy during COVID was a little bit stressful. And so that was, in addition to the plumbing problem, is we also had to rip out bathrooms. I had, outside of the front door, I had to tear up concrete 6 feet deep. And so we're talking like destroying the house. What was a $30,000 problem was really a $100,000 problem, because you add all the extra work and then little things like patching in this and patching in that and rebuilding this bathroom and that bathroom. Wow. So I went in major credit card debt again. And this is all during YouTube of like hustling. Thankfully, YouTube starts picking up end of 2020. I'm making maybe 6 or 7 grand a month. Because I had all those roommates, I was essentially living for free, which is my motto with house hacking. And I was able to finally pay down my debt. This would have been February, March of 2021. YouTube starts picking up. I get to like $8,000 a month. I'm like, life is good. I just went through these 2 major freaking headaches.
Yeah.
3 months later, I'm dealt with a lawsuit, which has been the last 2.5 years of my life. So I feel like I'm so appreciative that like the headaches are gone. I've dealt with more stress than you can imagine. And so now I'm excited for what's next.
How do you get through this, like mentally? Like what's
you just do it, man. You just do it.
Thug it out.
I don't know.
Thug through it. Thug it out.
Yeah, you just do it, man. I wish I had an answer, but I think we're all way more capable of accomplishing a lot more than what we think.
Okay.
It's only until we put ourselves
really
in a situation.
Thug it out, like no.
Yeah, I'm totally comfortable with compromise. Like I'm not a foodie, so I can eat rice and beans every night for dinner. I don't care about much else. Like I don't have the need to like be flashy. That's why most of my clothing is pretty. Yeah. Oh, now
this is a gift, bro. This is a gift.
I don't mean to shame you like that, but no, I don't really need much. So it's very easy. Like when times hit hard, it's very easy for me to cut down on everything and just hustle it out. Like riding the bus was kind of cool. I had 100,000 subscribers riding the bus in Vegas, which is
that's insane.
Yeah,
you're eating rice
funny.
and beans while getting like millions of views.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. How does it people approach you?
I've been recognized. Definitely not at that time. I wasn't recognized on the bus.
Okay.
No, I've been recognized occasionally.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe once a month.
Yeah, it's kind of like that dilemma of when people get a lot of views on social media but don't make the money, and it's like, well, what if you have to work a regular job? I bet that's an uncomfortable situation.
Little TikTok guy dancing on camera.
Yeah.
Wait, you're the guy that dances on camera, right?
Yeah. Were you ever at risk at losing your home? throughout this lawsuit,
Yeah.
or are you able to set it up in a way where like that's not an issue?
Oh, good question. Yeah, I think your home is exempt from judgments.
Mm.
So the risk with a civil law, of course, people will bring up, well, what happens if you don't fight it? It's a frivolous case. Just tell them screw off. Well, the problem is you get an automatic judgment. He was suing me for $2 million. And so if I don't fight it, this is why civil law is extortion and why I very much look down upon litigation. It's because essentially you're given a lawsuit
Mm-hmm.
and you receive the
God
lawsuit.
forbid.
You go, okay, he's suing me for $2 million. So I either receive the judgment, I say,
Mhm.
screw it, receive the judgment for $2 million and I lose everything. Or I go down the other path of fighting it and spend $330,000 and nearly losing everything. That there's A or B. There is no option C. That's why it's extortion. Lawyers are just like, oh, you can either lose $2 million or pay us an insanely ridiculous amount to fight this.
And anybody can just hit you with one of those? Oh,
Kind
you said
of,
there
yeah.
has
I
to
mean,
be some
partially,
reason.
yeah. Keep in mind
Yeah.
that my lawsuit had like literally every attribute to make it more expensive, made it more expensive. Like it should not have been this more expensive. The case was in federal law. Without going into details, there was also consolidation, multiple depositions.
Mhm.
There was many reasons why this got more expensive. A typical case should probably cost you $80,000,
Mm-hmm.
but for some, that's life-changing money
Yeah.
too. $80,000.
So you've been through a lot. What did you learn going through all this?
I think we're all a lot tougher mentally than what we think we are. Because I grew up middle class. I've never had real problems in life, no traumas. Grew up with middle class family. Money was
Mhm.
never a problem. So like you would think like, man, it must have been hard, but I think we're all capable of accomplishing and getting through hard times for
Okay.
sure.
You're like the real David Goggins. Instead of physical, you fight mental battles, man.
Yeah, it's funny. There are some things that happen where I'm like, man, I earned that. I recently had an Airbnb. Someone flushed the toilet upstairs, floods the house, $60,000 in damage. Someone's like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I didn't even think about it. I earned that, baby.
It's crazy how that's not
doesn't
even
even hit me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what happened?
Well, thankfully, insurance covered it.
Okay.
And, I have a manager handling it.
Mhm.
But point being that it's like, yeah, all right, just another day. Real estate toughens you up too, man.
That's
We deal with
crazy.
tenants and deal with problems because you have real problems with, if a roof goes out or if AC needs to be renewed, you can have some serious headache with property. So you deal with a lot of headaches.
I bet.
Do you ever wonder where you'd be if you didn't get hit with that lawsuit?
In some ways, I don't like to think about it because
Okay.
from like a positive side, it's easy for us to be like, oh, man, if that girl didn't break up with me, man, I'd have such a better life. Or if my car didn't break down or
Yeah.
something. But yeah, in some ways, maybe I'm better off because there's a chance that to add to that anti-slap, you can also file what's called a motion for fees, which we filed. We have not heard back from.
Mhm.
Entirely possible that the judge grants our motion. So we don't need the anti-slap. We just need the motion for fees. So there's a pathway where in a year from now, I have a judgment of 380,000. I've built up a channel that's very successful and a team built where a lot of the work is offloaded from my plate. I think it's created a desire within me to succeed at a level at which I might not have had before this.
Mhm.
And so in some ways, I think I'm going to end up better off, which is kind of where my brain is, that I always think after a challenge, you end up better off.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe the other path would have been, I tried a different strategy on YouTube. I don't want to make the exposed content anymore. I go a different path and it didn't work. Then what?
Yeah.
So I think that was always in play as well.
Makes sense.
We were talking a little bit off camera. You have an idea for a new channel. Are you okay with getting into
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Or you don't want to
So-
spill the sauce?
No, so I've done 3 videos for that channel. What had me
already?
really excited? Yeah, back in March of 2023,
Mhm.
I was in a really bad place mentally because I didn't feel like my main channel was in a good spot
Mhm.
with income. My sponsors were down to like 1 a month, and I kind of felt like my world had collapsed, and I needed a new creative outlet. I've been so burnt on the exposed content for like 2 years now that I just needed an outlet, and so I thought of a second channel where I'd go do house tours, which I love real estate. Ultimately, my long-term career is going to be in real estate in some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to do a second channel with real estate. I made 3 videos. The first one got 5,000 views.
Mhm.
It is the most fun I've ever had making a video. And then the second one, I went out to Miami and it has 20,000 views on a new channel, never promoted. I don't talk about it on my main channel. And so I was like, oh, wow, there's a real chance here to make a channel that's totally positive and totally different direction than my main channel. And so since then, I haven't been able to release. I did a video in the summer, but I couldn't justify continuing because all my money needed to go to my legal expenses and I was still in debt. But now, however, I have a roommate that will be filming with me. I have the funds capable of doing the content that we think we can make. And so I'm really excited, man. It's
Nice.
going to be, we're thinking a blue ocean opportunity right now is spectacle in real estate.
Okay.
And we're going to try it.
Yeah, I try to do spectacle in business, but I got burnt out with that too.
It's hard. But
Yeah.
I heard you were editing your own stuff though.
Yeah, till the
Right.
very end.
That might be part of it.
Yeah, that was
Topic ideation, thumbnails, editing. If you could offload a lot of that and you just be the talent, the star, I think
that's the way you have to. You have to. If you want to do a long term, you got to delegate.
Well, also you're successful with ecom too.
Yeah,
so you have.
I don't have to rely on that.
Right.
And that's the big peace of mind. Like that, because to rely on YouTube 100%, that's just stressful.
Killer.
To get those 10 out of 10s, they hurt me even without relying it. I can only imagine.
For real, yeah. Thankfully, I've had real estate, so I have income coming from real estate rental properties. So that was what helped keep me afloat.
What's your strategy like that? Can you put us on some
sauce? I have
sauce?
4 properties here in Vegas. I do house hacking, which is what the theory is: you buy a house and you rent out the spare bedrooms, and the theory is that all that rental income will cover your living expenses. Right now in 2024, it's a little harder to do that. It's not quite as lucrative as it was a couple years ago. But essentially, I gross about 18 to 20K a month from real estate from the 4 properties. One of them's an Airbnb, and then the 3 I live in one, and then I have 18 tenants that I manage. And so I realistically probably net around $2,000 a month to $3K a month. And so also what has me inspired about this second channel is this $2 to $3K a month from rental income will cover my living expenses for now. Because I live very frugally. I live for free and my personal expenses are pretty low. And so I feel like I'm in such a unique position in life where I've got a main channel that's churning 12 to 15K a month. And I've got really low personal expenses that are covered by real estate. I feel like I've got the skill, I've got the team built up to go all in on a new channel, and I've got the funds, baby. Mr. B style. Let's get that money gun out.
Yeah, you're planning to just fully reinvest back into the...
I think right now content is the best investment class. I think real estate is not a great investment for a lot of people unless you're going to hold it for 20 years. Stock market is fine, but you don't have an edge if you're just playing the S&P 500. E-commerce is obviously competitive. You can win in that game, but it's competitive. I think content right now, if you have the skill to make a channel, like if you had to survive, I think if you had to start a new channel, I think you'd be surprised at how successful you'd be.
Yeah, I wonder.
You certainly would do a lot better than most new creators.
Yeah, true.
Is the house hacking thing really a move? Like you have people living in your house. You go home and are you relaxed ever?
Always. Yeah, I live in a great house, 3-story, 2,600 square feet. It's a middle class, upper middle class area. Okay. I found that there's some people that need their personal space, and I'll never argue or never tell them get a house hacking or implement the strategy, because if that's you, if you feel uncomfortable with someone parking in your driveway or they're walking through your house or they have a friend over, it's not for you. Some people, I can share a bathroom and I don't care at all. Now, granted, this is not a long term for me. I don't want a wife and have roommates. Let's be clear. What house hacking is it's meant for a start in real estate. It's the best way to start, because with real estate investing, you can get in with as low as 3.5% down, maybe 5%, depending on how you can qualify. For a lot of people, if you hear a lot of people who are big real estate investors, they started with house hacking. Because you think about the average person, we're making 3-4K a month. If you're spending $800, $1,000 a month on living expenses, some cases $1,500, some of these big cities, imagine taking that down to zero. Well, that person now has $1,500 a month left over. They can go buy a course. They can buy a camera to start up maybe a photography business. They can start a YouTube channel. Like that's now, or if they want to stick with real estate, they now have some startup capital to maybe get started. And so it's the best way to start in real estate investing.
Okay.
Are you managing all 18 tenants?
Yeah. I'm create a system, and so it's very low key. All my tenants are very easy.
Vlad's been complaining a little bit. I don't know if you saw in the videos, but
I'm not gonna complain after this conversation.
That's what I'm saying, because he's like, yeah, real estate is not the best anymore. Like there's so much struggle. I mean, just last week, a tree fell on the roof and whatever. There's some repairs. It wasn't even it was a branch.
Okay, it was a tree.
Branch.
I'll put up the tree.
It wasn't that bad.
But to be fair, my whole point is that like that's not the highest leverage opportunity for me. Like you were saying, content is high leverage for you. Same here. Like this, I could be doing something other than real estate that could probably be a better use of my time.
You're not doing anything.
It's mental.
You just put some money into it, and then you hire a property manager, and then they're like, "Hey, are you okay with paying $1,200 for the tree thing?" It's like,
but
okay.
Once you hire the property manager, that really starts to dig into the margins with real estate.
To be fair, there's almost no cash flow in real estate in 2024.
Well, yeah.
So it's not a good play like it used to be, where you get 4 or 5 rentals and you got $4,000 a month, and I can retire. That's like all the books that were written. That's not the case. Certainly in big cities like a Vegas, you're not buying cash flow. You're buying for long-term appreciation.
And I'm not saying cash flow is the biggest thing, but maybe just for the long-term benefits.
It's a good play. There's also, so I'll tell you a little strategy. When you're a real estate professional, partially why I keep my license.
I have my license too.
And the reason why I manage my own properties is because I reached the qualification for being what's called a real estate professional. It's 750 hours a year. I certainly reached that, and why I also participate in certain real estate activities, which is probably not the best use of my time. But when you're a real estate professional, you can offset your active income with passive losses in real estate. And so my properties, I depreciate them using a cost segregation study. This has allowed me to, last year I lost $230,000 in taxes. Like if you look at my taxes, because I bought a property, it turned into a rental. I was able to cost seg it. It's basically rapid depreciation. And so I lost 230,000. So
the crazy repairs, you can use that against your active income.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to ask the CPA about repairs. It's not so much about repairs; it's more about the building itself.
Oh,
and
just
so
the depreciation.
Yeah, the depreciation of the building. Instead of you depreciate residential over 27 and a half years. However, with cost seg, it's over like 1 to 5 years or something. I don't know the specifics. Hire experts.
Is this a Nevada thing or
no? This is universal.
Okay.
Super smart. I heard people will like get their wife to get a real estate license and then file jointly.
I had a lawyer friend call me. He's like, "Bro, I made $2 million last year. Tell me about real estate." I go, "Well, what does your wife do?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, this and that." I'm like, she's now a real estate professional. That's a serious move for high earners. Absolutely. That's why some of these people in LA or here in Las Vegas, oh wow, who's buying these houses? Why are they buying them? Well, if you're making $600,000 a year in LA as a dentist, chiropractor, or whatever medical professional, you buy a property in Vegas and you offset all your taxes. And so it's the way to buy. You buy a property, an appreciating asset, and you depreciate the building so that you pay $0 in taxes. It's like it's the easiest strategy. All real estate professionals know this. Very few others know it.
That's genius.
Yeah. So my properties, that's why I talk about, I get 100% returns on my properties whenever I don't have a massive lawsuit on my plate. But yeah, that's why I buy properties, because I can buy them. I move into them with low down payment. I rent out the rooms, create a system, create a culture. Then I move into another property the next year. That is now a rental,
starting
which I
little
cost
cult.
seg.
You got to get the culture right.
Well, and I put solar on the roof, which is you get 25% of the cost of the system tax credit against your taxes. So I was like $15,000 tax credit.
Yeah.
Real lucrative.
I really got to look into that. But how does somebody get into it, like, if they don't have a crazy active income? I feel like the only way to really make a cash flow right now with a low down payment is to have like multiple roommates. I'm sure it depends on the location.
If you're buying a rental, you probably need to do house hacking. Yeah, if you're not putting down a huge down payment, house hacking is going to be the only way. That's why it is a good time now for investors, or if you want to consider yourself an investor, to look at all asset classes. Is your money better in e-commerce, or starting a YouTube channel, or starting this, or getting into real estate? Because your money could be spent better elsewhere or invested elsewhere. Real estate is a long-term game. Like Las Vegas right now, a long-term game. I buy in the Southwest. I think the Southwest is going to appreciate the most in Las Vegas over the next 10 to 20 years. And that's why I'm cool cash flow and break even, because I make all my money on the tax savings and on appreciation.
How do you make sure your tenants are good? Do you have like problematic tenants? Because actually I'm in the process of, I recently got a vacancy, so I have to look right now. Yeah.
Ooh, fun times. This is where the real risk of house hacking comes in. Everyone can look great on paper. When they move in, how do you integrate into the household? Same thing with the company. Someone could be a great on paper. Oh my God, this guy's so talented. He moves in, culture fit, or not culture fit, terrible fit. This doesn't work. Got to get rid of them. So that's the major risk that I don't care what anyone says, you truly cannot account for it. To answer your question, background check's fine. Whatever metric you want to use. I like looking for previous landlord reference. Let me talk to additionally, why are you moving? If they need a place real quick, why are you moving? Let me really dig deep into why you're moving, because they might unveil that they're getting evicted, or their sister doesn't want them in their house anymore because they're a slob. Then, of course, you want to verify income. I find someone who's employed by someone else to be much better than self-employed. Self-employed people can certainly be a little, a little sketch at times.
It's very hypocritical.
I know, no, for real. But I can at least show income and bank statements, whereas some people are just getting started and maybe they're not making as much.
I'm an entrepreneur, bro.
Yeah, I watched a Gary Vaynerchuk video.
That makes sense.
You have any horror stories with tenants?
Oh yeah, where do I start?
Give me the craziest one.
Here's the best one. I'll give you the best one. So I was invited onto Adam 22's podcast, No Jumper, and at that time I dealt with a lot of headaches. At this time I had been doing house hacking. I had the 7-bed. It's not in the best area, and it's in like a commercial zone, so I don't attract the best tenants. Although right now I have great tenants, not great in terms of just income, but I know people validate that differently. I think they're great people, even if they're maybe not the best on paper. Anyway, at that house, it was not a great house. It was a little dirty, and I was not attracting great tenants at the time. Right during COVID, when there was a huge scare of, holy smokes, what's going to happen with tenants? Can people pay? Can they not pay? There was a guy who was working at the pizza shop right down the street. He needed a place. It was a tough time for finding people, move him on in. This guy had moved here from a different country. English was a second language. I have a really big heart. Like I have a high empathy. I'm very privileged in life. And so I like giving chances to people who aren't as privileged. And I moved him in totally fine for a while. Then, poor guy had some mental health issues. And I had eventually moved out. And I get a call one day from one of the tenants yelling, Spencer, he lit the house on fire. He lit the house on fire. What are you talking about? They're here. He lit the house on fire. Guy walked into the front door. Oh, sorry. Back to Adam 22. So I go on the podcast with Adam 22 and he asked the same question. What have you experienced? Oh, I've experienced everything except my house has never been on fire, thankfully. So what happens like 2 weeks later? I get that phone call about house on fire. Yeah, so he I don't know what happened. He lit something on fire at the front door, lost his mind, and unfortunately tenants had to vacate. One of the tenants had to jump through the fire to vacate, and so she had some injuries to her leg.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a real problem. That was a crazy story. So we had the police there and the fire department there. Thankfully, somehow, I think the fire, it was an item on fire, I believe, is what I deduced. And it had gone out. It thankfully did not catch. I think it hit the wall, and the wall had asbestos in it, which is a fire retardant. And so thankfully, the fire did not spread. Thankfully. Yeah. However, the cops were there. They arrested him for arson. And so he goes to prison or jail or whatever. And I get a call the next night. I go back to my house. Stressful, obviously, because now I got 6 people in the house that are stressed. What happens to the house? The house smells like fire. It smells burnt. It's not inhabitable, but these people don't really have anywhere to go. Do I now pay for a hotel room for all these tenants to go to? I mean, this is like real problems, right? And so the next night, his phone calls me. This is like a ghost. Who's calling me? He calls me. He's like, "Hey, I'm heading back to the house." He's a different state of mind. He gets on the bus, heads back to the house, and I'm like, "How is he going to get there?" So I race over to the house to make sure, because I don't know what state of mind he's in, and he gets to the house, and thankfully he doesn't try to go in. I just say, you got to get your stuff and go. So we got his stuff out of the room. He did not go into the property and put it in his car, and he left. Never saw him again. Wow. And then he was in the news. I was in for Creator Clash. Remember Graham Stephan Boss Creator Clash? I was out in Tampa. This would have been March of 2022, I believe. Sounds right. Yeah, March of 2022. One of the tenants at that property texted me. He's like, "Hey, do you hear about so-and-so?" No, what happened? Shows me he was shot. He was shot and killed in Florida. He went on the run for something and was eventually shot and killed
by like the police.
Yeah. He was in a Costco parking lot. I think killed someone. He killed someone at a mosque.
See, that's
and by the way,
scary,
I tell this
bro.
story. I'm not afraid to say it because it's just an experience in life. I don't get those tenants anymore. This was a very unique time in life. Thankfully, I don't attract those. Can it happen again? Of course, anything can happen. But yes, this is the risk of real estate. If you're not into that, don't go into real estate. Every real estate investor, you know what's funny? I was hanging out with some guys who have some apartment buildings, and they're like, "Oh man, we had a death the other day." I was like, "Oh wow, that's wild." He goes, "Well, yeah, with enough units, you're gonna have a death every month or two." And I was like, "Oh my god, I never thought of that. If you own enough units, every couple months or a couple times a year, someone's gonna die in the unit."
Wow,
that's just part of the game.
Wow. See, I'd rather keep it out to outside rental properties, but like the house hacking part, I have a little.
You were living with this individual.
Because if it's like your rental property happens, that's horrible. But it is what it is. But like if it's in the house that you're living in, that's a little crazy.
100% agree. Yeah, the best way to house hack is with multifamily real estate. So this is generally how people get started. In a lot of cities, I was just up in Chicago. There's duplexes, triplexes. That's ideal because you get your own unit. You get offsetting income from other units. They're separate. They're on the property, but they're in a different unit, different front door. They're not sleeping in the same under the same roof.
You're not sharing a kitchen or whatever.
Yeah, you're not sharing a kitchen. So that's the ideal way to start. Here in Las Vegas, we don't really have that opportunity.
Duplexes are so expensive, though. I feel like everybody tapped in with the house hacking method, and like everybody wants a duplex. They're pricey.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I think the best way to do it now is get into middle class or upper middle class area. Get a 5 or 6 bed house like I do. That way, I'm attracting. If you met my tenants now, you'd be like, "Oh wow, this person's awesome." People I attract now are very, very, very solid people, high earners. One of my tenants has a higher net worth than me.
Wow.
Yeah, real estate investor.
What are people spending like per room?
I get $750 a month for a room that shares a bathroom. $900 for the primary.
Okay. That's an insane story, man.
Yeah, you want to go to the next one?
There's a next one and a next one and a next one?
There always is. There's always wild stories.
So when did you buy your first property?
I bought my first one September of 2016.
Okay.
That sounds right. Yeah, I bought a condo. Yeah, 2016. I bought a condo in Las Vegas Country Club. House hacked. So I was $880 a month, full expenses, and was getting $700 a month from the other room. So I was living for pretty low. And
Where'd you get this
what would
idea?
be considered a neighborhood. Friends send Bigger Pockets to me, the real popular podcast. And at this time, I was still trying to figure out how to buy a house, how to kind of get in. They're like, you should do this house hacking thing. I implemented. I actually met a guy at the gym who was like, yeah, man, I bought a house in 2012. I got 3 buddies that moved in. And I live for free. And I was like, whoa, that is a hack. That's a cool strategy. So I've been doing it ever since.
Do you think it was a lot easier back then when there wasn't as much information?
There was certainly significantly easier to buy a property. However, I would argue that right now, I think the demand for affordable rentals has been increasing. And so I'd argue it's a little harder on the front end to buy. However, it's much easier to find a good tenant or a better tenant and one that will pay more.
But do you think like the price increases in all of these duplexes is because of like Bigger Pockets and all those?
Very minimal effect.
Really?
Yeah, the real estate market is so big. I love comments when someone's like, someone has 3 Airbnbs. That's why the prices in my city, Los Angeles, are so much. Yeah, one person. Yeah, I don't think you realize how big real estate is.
What do you think about Airbnbs?
I don't really have an opinion much. If you're looking for like the hot take, some people are very opinionated on it.
Okay.
I don't know if you wanted anything specific.
Not really. It's just
well,
kinda...
you're a host now, right?
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah, I have
actually running
one.
it. So, but you just started it out, so you don't have.
Correct.
So
Yeah,
much
you're only
system.
allowed one in Las Vegas. So I applied for the permit. They're
Okay.
trying to really limit it because, of course, the city is ran by casinos. I will empathize and I understand the point of view from people that view Airbnbs as a detriment to a city. I will agree. I don't want to live in a neighborhood with a bunch of Airbnbs. I'm cool listening to that. I'm very pro-investor, so I kind of waffle a little bit. So I am in favor of people being able to buy properties, but I'm totally willing to accept a city implementing a limit on how many. I mean, the idea that some people can go and come in, take up 20, 30 Airbnbs, reduce the stock of families. I really like when cities offer families the ability to buy a house. I think it solidifies their belief in the community, their them wanting to do good for the community. When people own homes, they look at their neighbor's house and don't allow certain behavior or they don't litter. I think that's a good thing. And when you take that away, I don't think that's a good thing for a city.
Yeah. Vegas is doing it for, big business gain, though.
Of course.
They're not doing it
but
for families.
I'm cool with it. because they're spending
But
all
it
the
helps
money.
the families.
Yeah, they're spending all the money to bring the people here. And then I'm benefiting by, I don't have to do any of the marketing for bringing the people to the city. And then I benefit. It's not entirely fair. So I'm totally cool with people having one and doing some type of neighborhood limit where there's one, very clear limitations on how many hours is the owner available, how quickly can you assess a problem. If there's 3 or 2 strikes or something, you're out. Some type of system where you can cut out the bad actors.
And one more Vegas thing. You mentioned that you moved here because of a job offer.
Correct.
You just stuck around? You like it?
I have. Yeah, this is a great city. At the time, it was way more affordable to buy real estate. And so I think it was a lot more lucrative. But this city's pretty legit now. It's a lot more. It went from a vacation city to, I think, a full-fledged, kind of a B-tier city in America. I don't think it's A-tier yet, but probably B-tier.
It's very suburban. All
Lots to
around.
offer.
Like it's
not the prettiest city. It's all desert and.
I mean, it's cool. It's got the red rocks.
It's all right. Yeah, if you go outside the city, if you're into real estate, like the architecture of the houses isn't that lucrative.
Just boxes.
It's just track homes everywhere.
But I agree with you on that, on the Airbnb point. Like, I'm all pro free market, but then if I think about it, would I want like a ton of Airbnbs in my neighborhood? Probably not.
No one does. Yeah, you get a bad neighbor, a bad party guest. It's awful.
Yeah.
It's not good for the neighborhood.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Tahoe's doing a good job with it. It's very, very hard to get an Airbnb license.
Good. As it should be.
Some cities are full on banning it though, right? Like I heard something about New York.
Yeah, they did. They did.
Wow. Full on.
I think they are limited it extensively where there's only 500 permits or something.
So one of your biggest videos is the NBA, the athletes going broke. That's a crazy phenomenon. Let's dig into it a little bit.
It almost happens too much, but I think recently the top tier players make too much money to even go broke. They make too much money, whereas in decades prior, athletes weren't compensated in the same way. And so it was very easy to go broke. I think what is lost on the average viewer, and I certainly don't blame them because maybe they don't have access to NBA players, and let's be real, I'm not hanging out with NBA players, but I felt like I always had a different perspective because I worked in sports and I understood why they did. It's so absurd. You look at a contract, it's public information. Guy made $8 million over 3 years. How do you go broke? You don't realize how much access these guys have to expenses.
Oh yeah.
Lifestyle, the amount of money you can spend when you make that money is so absurd. It's the average person can't comprehend it. And so I think that what that series allowed is for the average person to understand why these athletes go broke.
Yeah.
Now, I certainly don't think they should. I think they're all really, really, really stupid with finances. However, I tried to do my best to explain how it could happen.
Yeah. I mean, and there's big athletes, like the big names, but there's also rookies that come in and they're making $1 million the first year, they're making a couple million. And those contracts only last 1, 2, 3 years, and oftentimes they don't get them renewed,
Do you know what the biggest expense is for athletes? The biggest reason why they go broke?
No.
Divorce and kids.
Wow.
Yep.
Is
Too
that
many of
like
them have
a statistic?
Yeah.
Wow.
So divorce takes half, right? So
Mhm.
that's just as brutal as taxes, but also the child support. There was a recent story, trying to think off the top of my head. Who was it? Someone was paying 50 grand a month and then 17 plus 17. Oh, Adam Carolla. I saw a news story. The guy had to pay $4 million from divorce, $50,000 a month in spousal support, plus an additional 18 in child support.
Wow.
That's serious,
That's
serious
insane.
money. So think about the athletes who you might make $5 million over 6 years. You go, okay, they made 30, but they played in California. You can count that down to 15. Plus, one of the challenges of being in that lifestyle is you're not living in a rough area. You have to live in a gated community because you're a high profile person. You can't do the things we do. You can't drive a Honda Accord. Obviously you can, but the people you hang out with, the people you associate with, you kind of need to spend a certain amount. You need to live in a nicer area because you're higher profile. And so then you're spending a lifestyle that is from $1 million a year income. Well, that's great when you're a business owner and you can make $1 million a year for the rest of your life. These guys only play for 4, 5, 6 years. And so before you know it, they only have, after 30 million in earnings, they may only have 2 million in cash. Holy smokes, that's a lot of money. Well, sure, to us, that's a lot of money. We'd be fine. But if you've built up a lifestyle of, here's the thing. If you had $1.2 million in cash, a lot of money, right? $1.2 million in cash. If you have $100,000 a month lifestyle, which these guys can easily rack up, if you're in Miami, New York, LA, you're only 12 months away from being broke.
Wow.
If you retire at 28, think of that. If you have 10 million in cash, but you spend $1 million a year, that money's depleting pretty quickly. It's obviously not going to last you your entire life. And then you get divorced and pay her out. Before you know it, the money's gone. And it happens so quickly.
What do they base those numbers off? Like their active income or like money they've already made?
Good question. I don't know the specifics. I think what a lot of them run into is a lot of child support or divorce. It's based on the active income, and they get divorced during their playing days.
Ooh.
So the problem is it's based on their income at the time, which may only last another 2 years. But I think that number stays the same. Someone would need to correct me. I'm certainly no expert at that.
I feel like,
but I think that there's some important variables there.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like there has to be room for negotiation, though. How are you gonna like
I
after
think in
you're
this
done
country, the reason why the red pill content is blowing up, there's a reason. You get a lot of married men who are upset.
That's probably why. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of these organizations do a pretty good job now. Like some of the NBA teams and whatnot, they're implementing. They're seeing the statistics and they're implementing strategies. So like there's a team on there that tells people how to spend money and some more education.
Yeah. You also have a big issue of a lot of these guys come from rougher backgrounds. They have people that support them. And I talked to a coworker who was from a rougher background than mine. And I asked him, I was like, why do these guys go broke? They say, well, look, Allen Iverson was an example. His maybe not had the family support. Maybe he did. I don't remember his specific story, but say there's an uncle or the high school basketball coach that took you in when you were young and you didn't have food on the table. He took you in, took you to practice. He coached you. What, you're going to make the NBA and not help him out? What about the guy who helped you here? The guy that helped you there? The high school teacher that helped you pass? Yeah. So then you think about there's the cliche, like it takes a village to raise a kid.
Yeah.
Well, when you make it, when you're Allen Iverson and you make it, and then you look back at all the people that you wouldn't have made it without them. So now you're paying for cell phone bills, maybe utility bills, all the people that you look at, you're like, man, that was my boy. He's now needing help. What, you're going to turn him down now that you're Mr. Hotshot? So a lot of these guys come from backgrounds that it becomes incredibly difficult to turn down those people with money requests, and you essentially become a piggy bank.
Oh, so it's not even like a selfish desires that get them bankrupt.
Right. I think a lot of them are the nicest. Like Antoine Walker, I think, was the $100 million one. Apparently he was like one of the nicest people. He just gave money to the wrong people. They lost $100 million.
And back to zero?
$100 million went bankrupt.
It's insane.
Now that number is a little tricky because I think the higher end players now aren't losing money the way they used to. I mean, these contracts now are ridiculous. They're making 10, 20 million a year. It's so hard to go bankrupt with that much. But the problem, not many people see the sixth guy on the Wizards or the backup center on the football team that makes $800,000 a year for 3 years. Wow, he made 2.4. But if you break it down, there's no retirement money. He's banged up. Now he's going to need extensive physical therapy the rest of his life because he's got a broken back.
Yeah.
What career do you go in? If you left college early to go play professional football or basketball, what happens after you're used to making 800 to 1.2 a year and you don't have any skills? What do you do?
Yeah.
That's a tough spot.
What
do they do?
You can't go make 40 grand a year. You were just making 800.
What do they do?
Well, that's the challenge.
You start dropshipping.
There you go. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The UFC is crazy though. I mean, it's like the amount of work they put in, they're fighting, and the little pay they get.
Well, the problem with the UFC is that it's alleged, because this is what we found in public records through a lawsuit. We don't know the exact number, but many sports leagues argue for like 50 to 53% of the total revenue share goes to the teams and the players.
Mm-hmm.
The UFC, it's believed it's 15 to 17%.
So Dana's a dog.
That is the biggest issue, right? And I think many could argue that they could push that number closer to 40, 50%, like other leagues.
Do you think it's wrong what Dana's doing? He should be paying more?
Well, if I put my business hat on, he's crushed it. So he's obviously done it well. I think if you're looking at the side of, it's always the question of the business owner or the business worker. Which side are you on? I personally feel guilty watching some of the fights, knowing that these guys are going in there and what they put their bodies through for my entertainment. And you see he made 10 grand and he just got knocked out?
Yeah.
10 grand? And I know math. You got gym fees, management fees. You flew there, hotel. I know you're taking supplements, diet. You're on top tier diet. You can't eat Cheerios and cheap food, high fructose corn syrup. You got to eat the highest quality meals because you're a professional athlete. Where's that money going?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that sport especially, because it's like if you don't make it, like you just got banged up. You were just getting your face punched in for 10 years. Yeah. It's like that can have a real impact.
Yeah, I always feel bad for in the baseball world. I played college baseball. That was my life back when I was a kid. And there's a lot of guys that play in the minor leagues where you're making $1,500 a month. You keep going. You get so close and you're 28 years old and you're AAA and you don't make it. And then what? You're just a professional athlete for so long. What career do you go in? You don't have any money. You're now starting to reach that 30s where you kind of want to have your career set, maybe get a little established. You don't have it. It's a huge risk.
Crushing.
What is your advice for young athletes? Like if I just sign the deal and I get a bag,
come to me. Make sure you have money for it. No, I think the key is evaluating where your money should go and having very difficult conversations with the people around you. What's really sad, and then I see it all the time, is if these athletes just invested their money from the start, you can have the Ferrari and Lambo and you can pay for rent for families, but you need to invest the money first, and then the interest will help pay your lifestyle expenses. Thankfully now, I've never seen more of this. Athletes are now getting into the investing game, which I love to see. More athletes. Aljamain Sterling, he's out speaking to the UFC, he's out here in Vegas. I saw him at a real estate meetup one night. Nice. He's investing in properties. He's got properties.
It's awesome.
So it can happen. Yeah. Just invest it first. But I can never pretend to live in their life. A lot of these guys live, you put yourself in their shoes. They're not like us where you sit down and analyze expenses and spreadsheets. They're living a life where like every Sunday football, you're putting your body on the line. Yeah. You don't come home and like analyze like, oh man, do I save a few dollars with rice and beans? Like you're in the spotlight, you're a high profile person. You've got people relying on you. Now you're the man who made it out of the family who's maybe didn't have the opportunity to go to college. You're the one who made it. You're the piggy bank. And so I'll never pretend to know what that's like. Yeah. So I think you have to have really, really difficult conversations saying like, here's what's going to happen. Here's how much money I can allocate. Here's how much I can't. And give it away, invest it away so it doesn't even exist.
And to get there in the first place, to become a professional athlete, it's not like us where we're growing up and we're like, oh, well, what do I want to do career-wise? How do I make money? It's just all that sport, whatever it is, fighting, football, whatever it is. It's just, that's all you live is that sport. Right. You're not thinking about anything else.
Right. And so you pay for training, pay for high-end training, pay for a personal trainer.
Yep. Crazy.
Do you have any advice for TeeJay? He just recently signed on to the podcast. He got his first big royalty check. He came up right now. How does he make sure that he doesn't blow it all?
Roth IRA.
Yeah, it's so funny. My like belief in investing is so different because everyone's got like their little strategy. Obviously, I think whatever you should do to make the most amount of money. I think that's step one is like figure out how do you get to $250,000 a year in income. Roth IRA is totally irrelevant. Let's be real, man. In the social media age, fucking make some money. It's not about Roth IRA. No, that's so boring, dude. Getting rich at 65 or 70s.
But you want some sort of retirement because, I mean, I feel like this is kind of similar to the payout structure of sports where you might only have 4 to 5 years.
Here's why I think that way. I'm very privileged. My parents live in an area where there's high net worth people. And so I've seen from the side of like all these people that saved up all their years. And it's like the deferred life plan. And sure, you can guarantee retirement for sure. If you're in a career that you love and you're like, I have the skills and I can work at this company for the next 40 years, smart strategy. I just think in today's day and age, investing is so different. Never been like this before. I think the strategy should be get your income as high as possible, and then you can worry about investing. Like putting away $20 a month into a Roth IRA or trying to get a rental property that makes you $80 a month cash flow. Like, are you really better off because of that? Probably not.
All right, so
spend it, bro.
I got 10 bands. How do I make that 10 bands $200,000?
You need to build up a skill in order to make a lot more money.
What's a good skill?
You gotta yap a little better on the pod.
Well, I'm totally only down one pathway. So this is not for everyone. Let me make that clear. I think house hacking is the best way because if you can reduce your living expenses to zero, you now just added maybe let's call it $1,000 a month in extra income. That's $12,000 a year. Now you just doubled up your money in a year. You now have, from 10 grand in leftovers today, maybe you spend that 10 grand on a house and you get 12 grand in a year from now. So that's what I believe, because then now you reduce your risk, you increase your cash flow. I think every young dude should pursue money first. I've just seen so many people put away their money in the smart investments, or what people consider smart investments, but you're also constricting yourself today. Like there might be an opportunity to go move to a new city where your income could double, but you can't take that because all your money was in a 401k that you can't touch. And you're like, I don't have any cash, or I'm tied here. This company has a 401k plan that I don't want to leave.
So there's no overnight method.
No.
Nothing like that.
No, you got to work for years. I haven't figured it out. Maybe some people can come up on a quick buck.
Okay.
But I haven't figured it out.
Hey, we're in Vegas. Put it on red.
I might as well.
Huh? I'm of the belief that real estate is a great way to do it, and content. But that's all I know.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Like some people, I've seen some of these young kids in e-commerce, like, okay, maybe you go spend 3 years. Every year you spend 5 or 10 grand and you lose it. But after 3 years, you find the winning formula and you start making 50 grand a month. Well, what job can you make 50 grand a month in? So I would argue that investment far outweighs any little like Roth or 401k or buying a REIT or any of these. I just think that's the old way because it worked in the 1960s and 70s and our parents instilled that within us. And so people are so ingrained to think that way, but I think it's so different. My mind changed so much on this. I did a video on Mr. Organic where I pulled up to this guy and it was quite, we ended up exchanging numbers. He was real cool about everything. And he said he was making like 100 grand a month. And
can you give some context? Who's Mr. Grant?
He was this really tall guy. We were beefing online. He was calling me racist. I was saying he was an idiot and all this stuff. Well, I pulled up, I created a fake crypto coin and basically like scammed him for video. He's a big 6'6" dude. He's got a video online of him beating people up. Like he's kind of a little rough around the edges. So, certainly from a different. It's probably my favorite video because we were beefing publicly and I created this like fake character. I pretended to be this like fake person. I created a crypto coin and told him, "Hey, I'll pay you to promote it on your channel." Because my criticism of him is that he promote anything. He promote a scam. So I created a scam so that he promote it. Yeah. And so then I told him I'd meet him in person. And so I went out there. He thought it was someone else, but it was the guy he was calling racist online. He's 6'6", massive dude. That's bold. So I pulled up to him and I had a check. I had a check for $1 and it said D's nuts. It was a good video. But anyway, he is of the mindset that he paid for flash and appearance and social media and all that, which a lot of people would criticize and go, that's dumb, which I kind of was. Like, you should buy real estate and all this. But then it got me thinking, this guy doesn't have the traditional pathway. He doesn't have any skills to go make 20, 30, 50 grand a month in a traditional way. But what he did do is once he started making a little money on YouTube with showing off his cars and showing his interesting lifestyle, he got to the ability to make 100 grand a month. So who am I to say I know investing I know of a plan better than what he's implementing? I don't know how he can start making 100 grand a month from investing, but he did it with content. And so my point is that he invested all of his money into content and was able to increase his income. Now, if he wants to buy property, he's in a way better position than if he was making 5K a month with a little 10 grand. So that's where my mentality is. Now, I know that's not for everyone. Some people are built for being employed or working with others, or maybe they don't aspire to make 100 grand a month. But that's where my mind is. And so that's the only perspective I see.
I feel like that's really good. So you just have to focus on your active income before you start worrying about like Roth IRAs.
Ryan Pineda talks about this. He's out here in Las Vegas, and I really respect his opinion. I agree. It's like you shouldn't even think about investing, certainly in rental property or in anything else, until you're making 250 grand a year consistently. And I've even noticed it within myself. I used to make 45 grand a year. Now there's ways with real estate you can do it with no money and play the seller financing game. So that's a whole different conversation. But for the most part, like really ask yourself, if you're putting away $1,000 a month, which is good, $1,000 a month into a Roth IRA, 401k, whatever. Like, are you really going to get rich? Is it real? Like at year 40? Yeah. When you're 60 and your kids are already out of school. Yeah, it's now something. And now you can start pulling from it at 75 or whatever the number is. But no, today, how's it paying your rent today? It's not.
That's very true. Graham Stephan isn't going to like this one. But.
No.
What do you think of some of our guests? You know who Iman Ghazi is and Luke Belmar?
Yeah.
What do you think of them?
I don't really have an opinion. I don't really consume their content. I mean, back when Iman was starting to pop, people were like, make a video on him, but he seems pretty legit and he seems pretty legit.
What about their whole philosophy of just like abundance mindset? You can make $10,000 a day. You can make whatever. All this is easy.
I think everyone has a different perspective on life. And so if that's your perspective, I'm sure you can make it work. I think there's others Graham Stephan is not that way and he's crushed life. And so I think it's very important. There was actually a Ty Lopez episode. It might've been with Graham's podcast. I really enjoy him on podcasts.
Me
I try
too.
to listen to him. He's amazing. Really, really intelligent. I feel like he's been mislabeled in a lot of ways. But anyway, he talked about it's really important in your career to figure out where there's a match between who you are in the career. And when that match happens, it's when your income can explode. And so where I'm going with this is like finding out what your philosophy is. For some people, abundance, that mentality really works. For others, you could probably point to that it didn't work. Like, yeah, money's always going to come in. You end up broke. And then for some, it does work. I do appreciate that mentality, though. I think that leads to the highest ceiling potential, which is like there's always money to be made. I'm going to go make it. And then there's others that are like super conservative. Every dollar needs to be invested. Every dollar needs to be analyzed.
So what's better advice for kids? Like if your kid wants the iPad and you give it the iPad to them, and are you turning on Graham Stephan or are you turning on Iman Gadzhi?
Oh, it's a great question. I think
what would you rather they watch?
I'm of the belief that you should watch everyone and figure out what works for you. So I think
so Gadzhi like Monday night, Graham Tuesday night,
Andrew Wednesday night,
Tate Wednesdays, Tate Thursdays,
Tate Thursdays.
That's funny.
Yeah, I'm not that opinionated of a person, so I'm not going to give you a great clip there.
No, it's okay.
I want to talk about Mickey.
Yeah.
You made a few videos with him, huh?
Who's Mickey, bro?
He's a gambler.
He's the long-haired gambler, poker.
Tattoo face.
Okay.
Yeah, those videos did well for me.
Bro, is he real?
AI generated.
I just want to know more about him. Like,
Sure. Yeah, that was an interesting video because, I mean, my belief is that you should meet up with people, especially if you criticize someone online. I view it as like sucker punching. If you do an unsolicited negative video about someone and then you don't give a chance to speak, you're giving them a digital sucker punch. I don't think that's fair. I've always been open. If you believe I was wrong about something, tell me. I'll make a video giving you a chance to speak your side. And so that happened with him. The only intention, I enjoy conversation. Like if you're going to be a fraud or like lie to me, I'm at least going to put it on camera and that way the audience can judge. But I'm not great about like confrontation in person. I'm not sitting there. I'm not the IRS. I'm not going to ask for tax returns. And so I just ask questions. People enjoyed that video, got over 1 million views. Of course, the most negative comments about that one because so many people think he's a fraud. I can only report on what I've seen. I've seen his player statements. I only saw one in that video and people got upset. Like, oh, you only saw one. That's not enough. Fair. I ended up meeting up with him at a restaurant maybe a year later, and I sat down with him. I was like, look, man, I did a video with you. It was nice. I didn't expose you or anything. Be real to me. You don't have this will stay between me and you. Are you a fraud? He goes, no, let me show you all my tax statements. He sat there on his phone, showed me one after one. And in one of the years he had a loss, so I could see the difference between loss and win. Now, of course, someone can say, oh, you can game that. I don't know. All I can report on is what I've seen. And so I saw 3 or 4 big casinos in town. I saw tax statements. I saw one year he lost 17,000. Another year he won multiple millions, multiple millions. I can only report on what I've seen. Additionally, I have a tenant that works at one of the high-end casinos here in town. He was texting me the other day. He says, by the way, I have access to everyone's player profile. He was showing me Dana White's, Floyd Mayweather's. And I said, hey, show me Mickey's. We saw a note. He was banned by an employee for winning, and all of his statements were wins.
Wow.
It was like excessive wins. I'll even show you to verify.
Poker?
Wow.
So, yeah, in the casino. So I think I don't remember if it verified like a machine or whatever, but all of them. I think there was like 12 wins and 1 loss. Wins meaning he extracted more money than he put in.
Wow.
So I have not seen anything. I've been demanding people to send me stuff that this guy's a fraud, that he's, I even asked him, I was like, look, be honest with me. Are you a rich kid? Like, are your parents, my dad's done well, but I'm not a rich kid. I'm not an inheritance kid. I'm not, that was his answer. So I've seen nothing indicating that he's a fraud, and no one has sent me anything with 2 million views combined, not one person, which I would say the odds of that, if he was a fraud, if he was not legitimate, if someone had some dirt on him, he would have something. And this ties into like a really fun conversation I have, which with like this critical commentary space on YouTube. And what upsets me so much is so many people benefit by these like ugly videos about people. And I will agree, I'm in that space. So I'm slightly pointing the finger at me, but I think there's the code of ethics that I talked about earlier. Dan Bilzerian's one as well. Not a single person has shown proof that he's a tax fund, or not, excuse me, not trust fund baby. Not one person. Now we can deduce that and maybe allege that to be true, but do we know it's true? In his book, he showed when he received the trust fund, and it was after he was already flying private. We saw, there was an interview the other day where the person who ran Molly's game said they had to kick him out of the group because he was winning too much against billionaires. So like, this is another example. Now, look, this is not me endorsing the guy as being a complete and amazing poker player, but I'm saying the point is that we've gotten to a space on social media way too far on one side where people are just making all these ugly videos because it works, but there's no truth. You've not done any research. Dan Bilzerian, the biggest fraud, is like the biggest downfall in social media history, or Dan Bilzerian's finally fallen off and all this stuff. But like, you're not adding anything to the conversation, but you're getting a million views. Like, what are you really doing? Are you as ethical as the person you're going after? I'd argue you aren't.
I mean, he did do some sussy stuff outside of poker, like with the Ignite and whatnot, but I see your point.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, if there's real criticism, you're adding to it, but like once it's already exposed, like, what are you really doing?
Yeah. Just cashing in on the AdSense.
Exactly. Which I don't find that to be an ethical play on YouTube.
Speaking of gambling, what's your opinion on this new wave of all this online sports betting and gambling?
Dude, we got to start a business. Gambling. It's insane how much money these people are making, isn't it? It's wild, because we've seen sports gambling was always around. It was just under the table because of it was illegal. Now we're seeing it open up, and we're seeing that it is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And these fake gurus, man, it's going to be insane how much money they're going to pull over the next decade. Like, this is just the start. Sports betting is an exploding industry, and they're tapping in.
Yeah, I don't like it, bro.
What do you think about the ethics behind having like a sports betting sponsor?
This is a great question, and something I asked my buddy who we're gonna deal with sponsorships together on my channel. Is like, where's the line, the ethical line? I don't see a problem with daily fantasy. To my knowledge, that's fun, interactive. It's more entertainment. I'm not the biggest fan of gambling. I don't like gambling sponsors or like straight casino sponsors, especially as long as there's disclaimers. Again, it goes back to the marketing. If I could say this is for entertainment purposes only, if you are a gambler and you want to prefer this casino over that one, I don't see a problem with that. But if there's any indication that you have a chance to win, if there's any indication that the odds are in your favor to win, or hey man, I'm a winner at the casinos when you're not, here's the casino I like to use, I don't like unethical marketing. And so I think that's where my position lies, is in the disclaimers and in what words are used.
You're not taking a stake deal?
No, probably not.
Stake, no price picks though.
I could probably take a price picks or
Price picks,
DraftKings.
bang online.
What? Yeah, one of those that are. It's like more interactive. At least my perspective. I don't know for sure. I'd have to do some more research just to get an idea of what's really going on.
Just over under on like player performance.
Yeah, like that stuff's fun. It's interactive. Like, you're gonna watch the game. Is George Kittle gonna catch a touchdown at the Super Bowl? Yes or no? Like, that stuff's simple.
What's the difference? It's still like gambling. You can still get addicted to it, right?
Yeah, and that's where the ethical line comes into, like, where do you stand?
That's a tough one.
And that's why I think it's very important to add in a disclaimer. Like, this is gambling. It should be used as entertainment. If they allow me to do that, I'm totally cool with it. I don't like some of the marketing used because I'm not into alcohol, cigarettes, like anything addictive. I don't really like promoting that. I'm not against it. I don't look down on people that do, but I don't.
Have you been wrong about anyone?
Yes. Yes. Someone actually become very good friends with.
You want to get into that?
Yeah, I mean, he's a private figure, so I won't mention his name, but he's attached to a very high-end celebrity.
Okay.
And so I was wrong about him in a video. He reached out to me directly, and since then he's proven that what I said was objectively false. That video's down, so you wouldn't be able to find it.
Yeah.
I would argue that Mickey's video, just because I haven't been proven wrong in it, me calling him, I don't remember if I called him a fraud, but maybe me saying some things about him being a fraud. Of course, any video, you're going to have slight disagreements on, let's say a lawsuit gets filed. Not everything in a lawsuit is true. And so you might think you know the story, but someone reaches out and just say, hey, you're factually incorrect here and there. But sometimes, like, that's kind of a minute detail. Are there any off the top of my head where I was deliberately wrong? None's come to mind. It's uncomfortable though when people reach out.
Yeah, I bet it is.
It really is, because I don't like this content. I don't consume it. I don't love the idea of like being ugly towards someone publicly, because I've had it done on me. I've had videos made on me, and I know the feeling, and I don't think it's fair when done incorrectly. And so that's why I try to really stick to lawsuit related content, because I'm just reporting on this lawsuit over here. I'm not saying anything about you personally. Certainly not going after your family or anything, or calling you a fraudster if you aren't one. Yeah. It's really challenging when they do, because that's been my biggest fear, is being wrong. I couldn't imagine like destroying someone and being wrong.
Have you ever started writing up a script for a video about Biaheza before?
No.
Never?
No, there's nothing.
Not even one thought?
No.
Not even the clap bag for the Instagram stuff?
No.
Okay.
No. You guys would be shocked at this next story I've been working on.